And I think my phone just went off just as we started recording. But how are we doing, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. I am joined by Mr. Scott Walters. And tonight we are doing a Let's Talk About show. And tonight we are talking about Vengeance Rising. I've got my CDs lined up, but Scott's got a whole host of cool stuff to show off.
Absolutely.
Yes, Scott, I've been a fan of your YouTube channel for quite some time now, but you've got a lot of stuff going on. So I seriously doubt people who watch me won't know have watched you, because you've been doing this a hell of a lot longer than me. You've got a hell of a lot more subscribers. But for the few people that do live under a rock, if you want to just introduce yourself, this brief description of what you do, what you've been doing, and all the rest of it.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Scott Waters. I do a channel on YouTube. It's called Nolifetillmetal. I have a graphic design business where I work for several different record companies doing album covers and layouts and designs, which is also called Nolifetillmetal Graphics. Have a small label that I in partnership with Roxx Records called Nolifetillmetal Records, where we put out vinyl and CDs. And I sang in a band called Ultimatum for 20 years, and I sang for the Reunited Vengeance for a little over 2 years. And we changed the name from Vengeance to Once Dead, literally the day of the show. So.
Right. Well, that's an interesting take as well. So yeah, we'll get into that at the end as well. Yeah. So not only Scott a big fan of this band, he did in turn kind of join them for a little while in a reunited kind of. We'll explain it later, because it's the original lineup doing the first two albums. But yeah, we'll get into that. So yeah, I mean, I came across Scott's channel just over a year ago now, I guess. Yeah, in the last year, in 2021, I came to faith and started my whole outlook on life changed, and I started reassessing where I stood in the whole metal world, and started looking at some of my collection and thinking, and and yeah, I was wondering, are there Christian metal bands out there? It's not something I ever looked into, and a lot of Christian music could be a little it didn't really come across as very sincere at times, and I could find a lot of it sometimes could be a bit like a cup of coffee with 10 sugars in. I was like, is there actually any stuff that still retains that edge? And I started looking up some lists, started searching through YouTube channels, and are there any good ones? And this was one of the bands that pretty much everyone agreed on. Every list I read, every video I watched, eventually this band came up. It had a really cool album cover, and I thought, well, let's give it a go. And then once I started digging deeper, that's when I was watching your show anyway, but when your Vengeance Rising videos and your Christian metal videos, your series, that's when I started. And I've discovered a whole host of bands that I would never have discovered otherwise. It is a completely different world on its own. And I will be doing a video shortly. I did intend to do it before the recording of this, but I just never got around to it. But yeah, I want to be doing a show of bands that I've discovered recently that I think a lot of people, even if you're not into, if you're not religious yourself, you don't have to. Lyrics, you could either enjoy them or ignore them, but these are really good bands that you deserve your time. So that'll be another video I'll be doing following this up. But yeah, Vengeance Rising, Human Sacrifice, I think is where we'll start. First off, I suppose you must have been there at the beginning. You were there when this came out. Tell us a bit about how you grew up. You was in that scene anyway, and just what the buzz was around this album at that time.
Yeah, I became a Christian while I was in college, and I've been a metalhead since the 70s. I've always loved metal, so the two just were always part of my world. But when I was in college, I became a Christian, and I was driving a truck one summer at a summer job, delivering furniture and carpeting and that kind of thing. I drove by the store that that said CDs and cassettes and records, and so I was like, oh, cool, let me check it out. So I went and did my delivery, and on the way back to the shop, I stopped in this little shop and checked it out. It ended up being like a Christian bookstore, which I didn't even realize those really existed at the time. So I went in there and I'm like, this is weird. It's like Bibles and books and music and stuff, but they had this little listening center where you could play the music, and I pulled that Vengeance Human, this one here, this album here, which is their first full-length album. I pulled the cassette out and I put it in that little, listening center, and I was just blown away by how heavy it was. I'm like, there's no way this is a Christian group, because at that point, my exposure to Christian metal was bands like Stryper and Petra. Right. So that was just otherworldly to me, and I'm like, that's incredible. So that's how I discovered them. I just walked into a store, they had a copy there, I listened to it and I loved it, and I bought the tape that day, wore the tape out, and eventually bought the vinyl, and then the CD, and as I can show you in a few seconds, I many other copies since then. But that's how I kind of discovered the band. But they did have a demo that came out before that in like 1987, which I should have grabbed it to show it, but I also have, and that's been re-released on CD as well. But that was my discovery of them. And it wasn't until I didn't get to see them on that tour. I did get to see them on the following tour. Here, I'll show you a few of my copies of. Let's see if I can go over a little bit here.
Yeah.
That's the original pressing of the very first album on Intense Records. Hang on here. Let me put these in some kind of order. Sorry about that. I should have put them in order before we did this.
No worries, no worries.
All right. Well, anyhow, I've got lots of pressings. So here's one. So the cover has changed too. There's been more than one cover. Slightly
different. Yeah, looks like it's from the same photo shoot, but from a different. Yeah.
It is the exact same photo shoot. So
yeah.
Do you know who Pastor Bob is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so Pastor Bob from Sanctuary International. That's his hand on there.
Yeah.
And a very famous makeup artist whose name I'm going to forget, who did. He's a Hollywood monster movie guy. He's the guy who did the makeup and everything for this cover. And these are two different shoots of the same, the same hand, the same time. And yeah, they came out really nice. And so I ended up getting to work on these, reissues. There's one more here. The picture disc version of it. So yeah, nice. It's been pressed and repressed many times. So
there's another CD edition, isn't there, where it is still a hand on a cross, but it's a completely different new artwork, wasn't it? That was with some bonus stuff. And
there was a label called Intense Millennia that existed for maybe 2 years that put out a few of the Vengeance albums and a few other albums, and they completely changed the covers. And I didn't like that cover because it's such a classic cover. Why would you change it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, since you showed me yours, I'll show you mine. I've got these new gold disc editions, all 40 albums. These are a gold CD. You've done a bit of work with, do you work directly for this label, or you've done a bit of graphic design and a bit liner notes, etc.?
Yes, I actually, the Roxx Records is the, who put those out, and I am a partner in Roxx Records.
Right, so you are, right. So I've got, you got background, funny enough, of that very photo shoot as well. That's the
those are the original photos from the original vinyl.
There's the story of the album cover, but
there's that picture of Jesus on there. That's on the if you look on the last page, that was part of their stage show for a while. They had this. They would just stage would just fill with smoke, and they would be playing Human Sacrifice, and the beginning would start, and it would be dark and smoke, and then all of a sudden the lights would come on, and the cross would come up, and there would just be this bloody, bleeding Jesus hanging from the cross. Very emotional,
Very, they're very unapologetic and very in your face about it. But I understand,
Roger Martinez was also a pastor and a preacher for the Sanctuary Church at the time, so. Yeah, they were unapologetic, that's for sure.
Yeah, so you got the banner around the cover there, but you can flip them around for the original artwork as well. I started doing that when I first started getting these, but then after a while, I thought, no, I quite like the band. I'm just going to keep it. So, but
Yeah,
I've
like
got
the
into Deliverance and X Styles. I got the other day. I've got the Nevermore. They recently reissued some Nevermore albums.
Yeah,
And
there's a King's X.
King's X as well. Yeah, I've got.
And
where are they? Yeah, he did the.
I got a bunch of them sitting over here. So I'm just like looking for them.
Yeah, Tapehead, Please Come Home, Mr. Bulbous, and Manic Moonlight. Yeah, I forgot about those. Yeah.
And then the Flotsam and Jetsams.
Yeah, they've just been released as well, haven't they? Yeah. The
3 of them.
So primarily a Christian metal album, a Christian metal label, but not exclusively. They're starting to branch out.
Actually, Roxx Records is exclusively a Christian label. They only put out Christian music. So if it's got the Roxx Records name on the back of it, it is a Christian album.
Right.
Now, if it's Nolifetillmetal Records, then it's probably not a Christian album. That's how we split the two up. So the two of us work together, and it's pretty much the same label, but we have 2 label names so as not to confuse people.
Right. Yeah, because it does get a bit blurry as well with a band like King's X, because they're not. Yeah. It gets a bit blurry, but try not to worry and just have fun.
Enjoy the music, exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a new album for me. I've only had it. I've only started listening to it last year, but I can honestly say, hand on heart, this is, guys. If you watching this and you've not heard this album, whatever your favorite thrash metal album is, by Slayer, Exodus, Dark Angel, name the band, this album will stand up against it. I promise you that. You've got to check this album out. It is fast, furious, shredding. I won't say dark, but it's certainly not a typical.
Kind of dark.
It is kind of dark, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of dark.
I was careful with my words. Is it dark? It's kind of, yeah, but it's a hard hitting message, but it's a positive message at the same time.
A song like Human Sacrifice is definitely a dark song. The whole album is it's just very heavy. The other thing I really like about that album, as opposed to all the other albums they put out, is that it's got this raw, youthful energy that is hard to capture on tape. Like the very first Exodus album, the very first Metallica album had those same kind of that raw, almost live recording where it's
got that urgency, isn't it? It's got that
exactly.
There's always that essence, isn't there, on that first album where no one ever acknowledges it, but everyone has that. This could be our only album, so let's just throw everything we've got. And yeah, you get that definitely. There's that naivety as well, that young energy where they've got something to prove. They're hungry.
Yep.
And yeah, this is it's a perfect little live set. It's 13 tracks. They blaze through them. I mean, some of them are even just a couple of songs long. I was playing it in the car today with my son, and there was a He Is Risen. And he went, did he say Bazinga? So, but yeah, Human Sacrifice as well. That during that first chorus, when you've got that riff, that and then that lead comes he carries on playing that riff, and then he just does that blazing solo over the top of it, where it just goes up. Every time it's me.
Larry Farkas, the guitar player, the lead guitar player in that band, is just one of the most underrated guitar players ever. Sharing a stage with him when I was playing with them, I just was always in awe watching him play. He's just amazing.
Yeah, White Throne, another great song. I mean, there's not a bad song on the album, but Burn. I'll fill this place with blood. What fantastic. Yeah.
Yep. And a lot of these songs were partially or fully written by a guy who wasn't even in the band anymore by the time this came out.
Really? Well, an ex-member or?
Yeah, Glenn Rogers, who went on to play with Deliverance. He played on the first Deliverance and wrote a few songs on there. He actually wrote a bunch of those songs on this Human Sacrifice album. Then after Deliverance, Glenn went into a band called Steel Vengeance out of Southern California, and then he eventually joined Hyrax, and then played in Heretic, and now he's playing in a band called Primal.
Oh, so he's done the rounds then, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Hyrax and Heretic and well, even
Yeah.
Deliverance as well. That's another band I've discovered. I'm going to be talking about them. They've got a really long catalogue as well. I've got the first 4 albums, and
I'll get
yeah,
you.
it looks.
I'll get you Glenn. I'll get you Glenn's because Glenn is playing in Deliverance again now. He played on the last album, the last studio album they did, and he also played on the reissue they just put out of Camelot and Smithereens. So I'll get you Glenn's information, so in case you want to bring him on your show. Because
Yeah, all right, that'd be cool. Yeah,
yep.
That'd be. So yeah, I think we've pretty much this is a classic. It's considered, the ultimate.
Yep.
Well, it's definitely one of the cornerstone for Christian metal and Christian thrash.
There's not a song here I don't love. Burn is another one. It's probably the slowest song on there too, but it's just so heavy. Burn.
Yeah.
So, yep. Agreed.
So the onto the next album, the second album. So what was that? Something's telling me there was a bit of a gap between the two. I'm not sure if I've got that right. What was it? 80.
It wasn't really a gap.
No, there wasn't, was there? 2 years, that's nothing.
This one
in the big scheme of things.
Human Sacrifice came out in, 88, I think?
Yeah, I've got my wires crossed. I was thinking of another band. For some reason, I thought there was a bit of a gap. I don't know why I thought that. But
they put out this one. This one, I think, came out in either end of 89 or very beginning of 1990. This is an original UK pressing, actually, of the vinyl. And I could never find a copy of this. But then when I played with the band, the guitar player Larry, he's like, "Oh, I got a copy of that at home. You can have it." So he gave it to me, and the whole band signed it for me. So I will never let this go out of my collection. I cherish it.
Yeah, awesome. I've not got the CD in that one. It's still in the CD player now. I was listening to this one today, but
that one too, I got multiple copies. Here's the reissue that came out on vinyl, and you can see that quite a difference in the back covers.
Yeah.
And then this is kind of cool.
Just the zombie. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is actually a test pressing of Human Sacrifice. So
cool. This is another one as well. You got the story behind the photo shoot, and I think some of these are even better than the.
Those are great. There's some cool photos in there. Actually,
yeah, they should really have expanded that. They should have. Rather, I don't know. In the original artwork, is there a few more?
They kind of.
Oh, they do that. Yeah.
And then on the inside of the vinyl, see the giant collage and lyrics and stuff. So
that's a really cool band photo as well at the top there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I read your review of this album on your Nolifetillmetal website.
Uh-huh.
Scott also writes reviews, and he has his own website where he's got this cool little thing where you just click on the band and the whole catalogue's album by album is reviewed. And you said that you was there the day this came out. You was anticipating it like.
Oh yeah, because I was a huge fan at that point, and I walked into the store the day it came out, and oddly enough, the guy who was selling it is Robert Gutierrez. He was the music buyer from the store I walked into. Robert Gutierrez ended up becoming one of my best friends and was the guitar player in Ultimatum. So anyhow,
so the stars aligned. Yeah.
Yep. So I walked in and bought that album, took it in, and I didn't have a CD player in my car at the time. I had a cassette deck, so I had to wait till I got home. But man, when I got that, I thought that was the funniest cover ever. This Christian band with zombies on the front cover. I almost didn't get it, but I mean, there really is everything they did had a spiritual message behind it. So I mean, this is the if you look at the dates on these tombstones, it has their names on it. It has the dates they were born, and then it has the dates they were born again.
All right.
So that's the whole point of this is before and after kind of a deal. Before becoming believers, after becoming believers, that kind of thing. So that was the
all right. So that's a spin on it. Yeah.
Cover. Yep. So anyhow, yeah. So yeah, I remember putting that thing in and hearing the very that very first riff on Warfare and just being I mean, the whole thing is just a hammer to the brain the entire time. It's just, even the Deep Purple cover, I loved it. It was just so ridiculously over the top.
That
Roger
is a good
Martinez
cover. Yeah, the Thrash band's quite keen on Deep Purple covers as it goes, and they generally I've not heard that many terrible ones, but yeah, Space Trucking, they do kind of make it their own.
Oh yeah, it's a thrash metal cover for sure.
But yeah, Warfare Can't Get Out is a great opener. Frontal Lobotomy. I'm trying to think of other ones. There was one that jumped out at me today, and I was like, I'll definitely mention that one.
Into the Abyss is one of my favorite tracks by them.
Yeah.
Larry Farkas plays the guitar, and he uses a violin bow on part of it.
Yeah.
Inspired a lot by Uli Roth from the Scorpions, who used to do that quite a bit.
With this album as well, I guess what's most notably, the first album's 36 minutes. This clocks in just under an hour.
Yeah.
You get a full package on this. Do you think it affected the album at all? Do you think the
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think it's I think it's and then again, it's, there's the short songs on here. Like Interruption is not even really a song. So I don't know. I love this album as much as the first album. I know a lot of people like the first album better, but I like them both just as much. They're just both fantastic. And I love Roger's voice. I mean, he couldn't sing. He wasn't a singer. He was a front man. He was a vocalist, not a singer. One of the cool things about being in the band for a couple of years was I got a lot of inside stories from the band, which some of them I can share, some of them I can't. But one of the things I always thought was great was when they were auditioning vocalists for the band. The original vocalist in Vengeance was a girl. They had a female singer for a while, and they recorded some demos with a female singer when Glenn Rogers was still in the band. But after Pastor Bob got involved and they started putting the band together, they were kind of wanting to go in a heavier direction. They were kind of inspired by the likes of Venom and Slayer as far as musical direction goes. So they were looking for a more gnarly, is the word they were using, vocalist. So they auditioned Roger Martinez, who also plays guitar. And I'll never forget the story because Larry Farkas told me the story. He's like, yeah, he came in and he said, this guy, he couldn't sing at all. He's like, he was awful, terrible. We had to have him.
So you think some of the greats are like that, though? They're not particularly vocally gifted, but it's the personality, and it's Paul Bailoff is a prime example of that. Or even Ozzy Osbourne, right. I think he was a better singer back in the day than what he gives credits for now. I mean, if you take a song like I'm having a mind blank now, Solitude, for example, but
I mean, if you think about it, for this album, not even this album, but even the first album and the first demo, which came out in 87, 88, somewhere in that area. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of bands doing that death metal style vocal yet that he does. That, that real deep growling that he was doing. So, I mean, you had Napalm Death, but they were doing more. I mean, those early albums like Scum were more of a shout than a
more of a grunt. Yeah.
I mean, you had Death as well and Possessed. But again, those guys were around the same time. So, I mean, Vengeance were really ahead of their time, in my opinion. So,
especially when you, I've mentioned before on my channel, one of my favorite, my real favorite is when it comes subgenre, I guess. I particularly love is those bands that just draw that line between thrash and death. So they're not quite in the realm of death metal yet, but they're at that real heavier part of thrash metal. So they've got one foot in. So Demolition Hammer, Numbskull, could say Dark Angel, Solstice,
early Sepultura.
Perfect example. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean. So
early Sodom too. Yep.
I'd hopefully put Vengeance Rising in that category as well.
But yeah, I mean, I actually got to see the band on this tour. It was the most bizarre experience I've ever had at a show. Ever in my whole life. I'll never forget it. It was the first time I met the band. They were touring for this album, and they had this huge, they had a van that they were pulling up behind them, this huge trailer with all their equipment in it. Well, Roger Martinez apparently had this gigantic cabinet with all his crap in it that was really heavy, and they kept blowing tires in that trailer because of that heavy cabinet in there. Well, on their way to coming to where I was seeing them at, they broke down. They had a flat tire. So by the time they got to to the auditorium. I mean, they had to close it. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2, whatever the time is. You know, a bar has to close. They didn't get there till like if the bar closed at 2, they got there about 1. So.
Wow.
So I was there the entire time. The local promoters were just bringing up any local band who was willing to run and come up and play. So they were just wasting time until the band got there. So they had all these local bands playing, Combat Faith, the Musketeers, all these bands that were around. In any case, they finally show up. They basically take all their equipment and they throw it on stage. Everybody's getting together. Roger Martinez comes up to me. He goes, "Hey, you mind running our merch booth for us for a little while?" He just throws all this merch at me. He's like, "Here, put it on the table and sell it." So I'm like, okay. So I pulled all the stuff out and I start selling this stuff. And they told me what the prices were, and they sold a ton of merchandise. So even though they lost about half the crowd by that time in the morning, they ended up only playing 3 or 4 songs before they had to get off the stage. That was all they got through. They played 2 songs off the first album, 1 song off of Once Dead, and they played 1 new song, which was awesome. In any case, then they got off the stage and they started cleaning up. Well, the promoter, the guy who owns the hall, he locked the doors and locked all the bands in, and the remaining people who were inside, including myself, because I was running the merch booth. He thought I was with the band, and he came up to me and he asked me, "Where's my cut of the merch sales?" I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." He's like, "I get blah blah. I don't know what the percentage was. Blah 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 percent." He's like, I'm like, "You know what? You'll have to talk to them. It's not me. I'm just, all they did was ask me to help them out and sell it." So anyhow, he ended up pulling a gun on us, locking us in, and wouldn't let us out of the club. I mean, we were stuck in the club for hours. So there was me and the guys from Vengeance and a couple of the guys from the Musketeers all just sitting there chatting for hours until the police finally got there, and they made them, they made us let us go, and it was just an interesting situation. So I'll never forget,
Yeah, you guys see a band and you ended up becoming the merch guy and then having a gun pull on you.
Exactly.
That's a weird thing as well, with American venues. In the UK, everywhere shuts at 11. But yeah, you go to a gig in the US and yeah, they can come on midnight, 1 in the morning. It's
I think
whatever.
2 in the morning in most places. Some other places have curfews where it's earlier, but yeah, the club they were playing at was in the middle of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the closing time was 2. So yeah, they ended up getting 3, like I said, 3 or 4 songs. I think it was 4 songs.
I never understand that as well when the club gets a cut of the band's merch. Does the band get a cut of the bar?
Yeah.
It's never both ways, is it?
No, it's not. Yeah. It's all in the contracts you sign. It's whatever contract you sign. So anyhow, that was my Once Dead experience.
Yeah. So anything we want to say about this album before we move on?
Nope. Great album. It's like I said, one of my favorites.
So basically, picking up where the last one left off, we're on even ground with this one, and then things kind of go skew whiff, as we say.
Yeah, things kind of went south very quickly. The band was a lot of things happened, more than you can get into, but basically the band split from Roger. What the plan was, Roger took off to Australia. He was going out to produce a band called Mortification, who were actually called Light Force at the time. So he was out there producing the first Mortification album. And while he was doing that, the band decided they were done. They had done this tour. The tour, they borrowed like $30,000 to do this tour. They were in the hole, and they owed 3 different companies $10,000 each that they had borrowed to do this tour and to get proper equipment and all this kind of different merchandise and everything. So when they got off the road, they were exhausted. They were tired. They were just sick of it. They didn't want to do it anymore. So they decided they were going to fold the band. And that would have been 1990, right at the end of 1990, beginning of 1991. So they met with Pastor Bob and told Pastor Bob what their plans were. And this is without Roger now, because Roger is in Australia. So when Roger gets back from Australia, he's a bit shocked to find out that his band that he's been pouring his heart and soul into is no longer a band. And so what they planned on doing was, rather than breaking up right away, they were going to do a few more shows, put out 1 more album, and they were just going to use all the money that came in from those shows and that album to pay off the debt that they incurred from that tour, from that Once Dead tour. But Roger said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to record a new album. I want to go on tour. I want to keep the band. So the band decided, okay, you can do Vengeance it's all you. We're going to do something different. You take Vengeance, you take the debt, you take all the equipment, you take the merchandise. So he got everything. The other guys took nothing from the band except for whatever instruments they had, most of which is stuff they had before, that tour.
So he carried, and they went on to do Die Happy.
So they went on to do Die Happy. They recorded 2 albums and an EP with Die Happy. And then Roger went on to basically record the next album. And those new songs they were playing on the One Stead tour didn't end up making the album. So yeah, Roger ended up doing this one. So it became kind of a joke, Roger Rising, right? That's what everybody called it, because it was no longer Vengeance Rising, because it didn't have all the same guys on it. That's why if you look at the photo on the back, it's got Roger alone in the picture.
Yeah.
So, and that's him standing in front of Jim Jones Temple in California. The infamous Jim Jones, who the whole Kool-Aid situation. That's where that. That's Jim Jones Temple.
Front cover.
And then this guy on the front cover here, it was a bodybuilder who's friends with Roger. And on the cover you just showed, it has the guy half burned off, because all these things will be eaten away is what the Bible says, right? All the earthly things. Yeah, right. The video. Roger even tried to get the band to pay the band, the old members, to do that video shoot and just be in the video, and they didn't want to do that either. So he hired a bunch of just guys with long hair that he knew to go in and play the video, and that's what you see in those pictures that you just showed. So I still like this album, but it's definitely a different vibe than the first two.
I didn't realize Roger produced the first Mortification album. Mortification is another band I've got into recently. I've got the box set. I don't know if you can see it there. The Underfill in it. Yeah. The
Soundmap box set. Yep.
That's the first 5 or so albums, I think. Is it 5 or 6 or 7? And
something like that.
Did I say Defiance a minute ago, or did I say Deliverance? Deliverance is another band I've.
Yeah, you said Deliverance and Mortification.
I did say Deliverance, didn't I? Yeah, I'll shake my thing there. Yeah, right. Completely different.
I like the album. I just don't think it's on par with the first 2 albums. But I still think there's some great songs on it. And I just know, because I do a lot of reviews and I do a lot of videos, that whenever I show this album, there is a lot of people who still say this is their favorite album from them, which is fine. I mean, everybody's got different tastes. So I just sort of see it as the next step, really, taking into account lineup change, etc. But so it's just Roger on his own on this album. It's just him and a drummer, isn't it? Is the pretty much. I think
guy on drums, and then he does the guitars, bass, vocals, and everything. So fair play to him for that. Before the Time, they did an album video for that one,
which I think is a cool song. I really like that song.
Yeah, it's just that same riff.
It's really it's just a fast thrasher, Yeah.
You say as well, you were alluding earlier to they sort of don't really get the credit for being sort of early in the development of death metal. Roger's vocals is I don't know if he would have had an influence on someone like George Corpsegrinder with their fast, rapid delivery takes.
Yeah,
George.
I know he was. I think even some songs from this album were on a lot of those early death metal compilations back in the early '90s.
Yeah.
So
it's possible. It's interesting, but You Can't Stop It is hits the ground running. This is pretty. It's just as relentless as the other 2 albums, really. I think it's a bit more. I think it's a bit more.
A little more experimental at times. Like Hide Under Pressure is a joke song. That's just Chris Hyde was the drummer who was formerly from Deliverance, and it's just him pushing him to top speed in the studio. Come on, faster! I'm not paying you. What was it? I'm not paying you $3 an hour for nothing. Faster!
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty good bit towards the end. I think the closing track, Regal, is kind of drags a little bit. I wasn't too under that, but
it's kind of an oddball track. I'm glad it's on the end.
it's got slow and doom. It's got some spoken word passages on there, and it's a closer. It could have been a bit shorter, but but that's that small peep aside. This is basically Roger doing what he thinks Vengeance Rising should be, and it's just as punishing and relentless and scorching as the other three. And then
I think the reason people don't like it as much is because the production is a little thinner. It doesn't have that raw, thick production that the first two albums had. You know, it doesn't have that almost live delivery. It's thinner. That's all. I can't explain otherwise saying it's just thinner. However, this version and the version I think you have that gold disc version too, right?
Yeah.
This one, yeah, it sounds way better than the original because the mastering was better.
Yeah, I just got. I was looking for just trying to find. I found it really hard to get hold of, and then I think it was Soundmass who I came across. I can't remember if it was Soundmass or Boone's Overstock. But I bought all four, and because it was the only place that did all four, and it seemed like these were the best editions to get. And I had to sell a kidney to pay for the postage. But yeah,
it's not cheap.
It's everywhere. It's even.
Oh yeah, I mean I live in the United States, and Canada is attached to us. And I sent a package with a few CDs to a buddy in Canada, and it cost me $50.
Yeah. It's gonna get
it's just unfortunately
it's gonna get worse before it gets better. But yes, that's just something you gotta bite your fist and go, yeah, I want them. So, but it was a good day when they turned up.
I don't think they toured for this album. I think there was no tour for even this album.
Was there not? No.
I don't think they ever even did a tour for it or anything. They didn't do it. They did a tour for the next album, but they didn't tour for this album. But I think there was some. Oh yeah, it's the same photos that you showed in the other one with the video.
Right. Yeah, I always thought they were extras for these editions, but
yeah, those photos are only in these editions. It was never released on vinyl originally. This is a repressing on vinyl.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was only released on CD and cassette originally, and then it was released on vinyl on Roxx Records back in 2020.
Yeah, that's interesting what you told me about the artwork as well, because I didn't realize what the significance was. So, thanks for that.
The Jim Jones Temple, the People's Temple.
With the all things fading.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yep. Destruction comes. Eventually, it's all going to get wiped away.
And then, so same setup as the last album. It's Roger in the driver's seat doing guitar and bass. He's got another drummer as a session player, but this one's got a few more guests doing lead guitar and whatnot. I think I've got a bass player on this one as well, actually. But yeah, it's a few more musicians involved in this album, but it's still Roger in the driving seat.
Yep, pretty much. Matter of fact, if you look on the back cover of this is a reissue too, but the back cover you can see that photo. That's
right, yeah, look, yeah. I've not got that on this one, but yeah.
So
that's all the people.
I don't know if I can't remember what's inside, but he did put a touring band together for this album.
Yeah, you got some live photos.
Yes, and I saw him on that tour. It was kind of an ill-fated thing as well, but the first day of the tour was in my town, and the Musketeers were opening for them, and the Musketeers were supposed to do the entire tour with them. But Roger had started going a little, trying to think of a nice way to say, batty, but just something wasn't right. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So right before the tour, that day, they loaded all their equipment on there. They loaded the Musketeers equipment on the truck, and the Musketeers had brought Deliverance out the week before to play at to play a show in Albuquerque, which is where I'm from. And the show was well attended. They were on their, I believe it was their What a Joke tour. And it was well attended. Well, then the next week, Vengeance came. And when Vengeance did their show, the attendance was really poor. I mean, it wasn't empty, but it was definitely not a full hall. Well, yeah. Roger got upset and blamed that on the Musketeers, saying that's because you brought Deliverance last week and people can't afford to go to more than one show. He got really upset about it. And that night, while everybody was, asleep, getting ready to leave for the tour the next day, he took all the Musketeer stuff off of the truck and just left it in the parking lot. and so they ended up doing the tour without the Musketeers. So yeah, it was kind of crazy. But I did get to meet the band and him on that tour. Matter of fact, here's some of the pictures. I don't know if you have that picture there in yours, that black and white picture with the autograph on it.
But I've got the. Let's have a look. Oh, what's this here? Oh yeah, it's in the tray.
Yeah, exactly. That picture there with the autograph on it. That's actually my CD that I got autographed by him that night on that tour. That's where that came from.
All right.
And then the little autograph over here is the drummer Johnny, who went on to play in a lot of other great bands as well. But he actually has some great players on here, but they're under aliases. Like Simon Dogg plays rhythm guitar in here. Simon Dogg is Jimmy Brown from Deliverance. He plays rhythm guitar. There is nobody named Simon Dogg.
Right. Okay.
Manic Joe Monstranic, that's Victor Macias he plays bass. He's from Tourniquet. And then
so this is like a super group. This is like an all-star lineup.
Right. And then Johnny Vasquez, who did play drums on here, he went on to do the tour too. He went on to play in a bunch of different bands after that. But and then on the tour, let's see if I got it here. If you look at the picture right there, that is actually George Ochoa, who was the guitar player, producer on Deliverance's Weapon of Our Warfare and What a Joke albums. So he played the tour for this album.
Yeah, the Weapons of Our Warfare. That's the blue cover, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
I've got the long box.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite albums, that Weapons of Our Warfare.
Yeah, great album. They're they're a band I've got to get into. I've only got the first 4 so far, but I want to.
I've colored vinyl though. It's like pink. Purple. But in any case,
I started listening to an album of theirs recently where they go a bit Queensryche. I think they try to do a tribute album, and then they've just done a box set of it where they've re-recorded it or something like that. Deliverance.
Yes, Camelot Redux. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it's fantastic. If you like Operation Mindcrime,
yeah,
or like Dios Magica, it's kind of in that vein of storytelling metal.
So what's that box set that they've just released then? Is that got the original album and a re-recorded? Is that it? Or
it's got 3 discs in it and a 36-page book in it. I think it's 36 or 38. I can't remember what it is. But yeah, it's got the original album remastered. It's got the new album on CD, and then it's got a DVD which shows them doing recording and interviews and all that kind of stuff from back in '95 and on the new album. So it's both mixed together. It's almost like 2 hours long.
Is it a new album or is it a re-recorded of the original?
It's a re-recording of the original, but it's so different. It's totally reworked and reimagined. It might as well be a new album.
Right. So that's a simplified way. Yeah, it's a lot more to it than that. Right. Okay.
Yeah. It's got a lot of stuff that wasn't on the the original release. The original one, they had planned this big storyline like Operation Mindcrime, and the label rejected it. So that's why it ended up being just simple songs. Now they've added all that stuff back in.
Right. So this is what the original vision of that album.
Exactly.
Right. I get you now. I get you. Cool.
Yep. So yeah.
So. Yep. Back to the. We love a digression on this channel. So yeah, back to the.
I do released, well. It's the way it is.
Released Upon the Earth. Yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely in death metal territory on this album. This is definitely the heaviest. And
he was trying. Roger was trying. I remember him telling everybody he was really shooting for like a grindcore death metal sound.
Yeah.
He was listening to bands like Napalm Death as he was trying to get that kind of sound. I still hear some thrash in here, but yeah, it definitely was pushing a heavier, darker sound.
Yeah, I think this is still definitely thrash rooted, but he's definitely taken that step forward into death metal on this one. It's still not quite there, but yeah, like songs like Released Upon the Earth, the riffs on that just
Yep.
Awesome. And he's definitely he's changed vocally on this album as well, hasn't he?
He's very deep and guttural, on a lot of the songs.
Yeah, it's a shame he didn't. This would then be the last album, because I'd like to have seen where he would have gone with that,
Yeah, and
even if this would have been the predecessor into a new project. Like, you know, like you have certain bands, don't you, where like the first Nevermore album is arguably the third Sanctuary album, or the way Type of Negative went into Carnivore. The first Type of Negative album was leftover Carnivore songs with a couple of new ones. If he had used this as a launch into a new death metal project, where that would have been cool. But unfortunately, it's the last album, but it's a good one to end on. I mean, this is a 4-album run here, and it is pretty much a 4-album winning streak in my eyes.
But if you're really looking for more, I mean, the very first Die Happy album, some of those songs that are on the Die Happy album were Vengeance songs. They were written for the third Vengeance album, ended up being used for Die Happy. So the vocal style is way different, because you got that kind of singing, clean singing style.
Yeah, it's a very different project to.
Very influenced by Deep Purple, and they were looking for a singer who was kind of like Ian Gillan. Uh-oh.
Have we got a guest?
My grandson just walked in the room.
Boys, Pop is working.
Sorry.
We're sorry.
No worries, no worries. I have my boys outside here quite often, and we've even had the dog come on at one point.
Yeah.
So
my grandson, he just walked in. Anyhow, but yeah, I mean, so some of the songs ended up on the Die Happy, and then some of the other songs ended up on the Once Dead album that came out about 10 years ago.
Yes, right. So let's talk about this. So the band, the original lineup on the first 2 albums, as we discussed, split with Roger. They went on to form a band called Die Happy, but then years later they decided to reform. And your good self sang for that band. How did the reunion come about, and how did you get involved in it?
So in 2002, Ultimatum played a show out in California. It was called the Extreme Mardi Gras, or Metal Mardi Gras 2 or something like that. And it was there was a DVD put out a long time ago, like 87, I think it was, called Metal Mardi Gras. And Vengeance and Deliverance were in Malakaya, and a bunch of other bands were played live. And they were on that video, which was only ever released on VHS. So that in 2002, they decided to let's do a reunion thing for all these different bands. So they had Deliverance and Recon and all these different bands playing, and Ultimatum was invited to play as well. Well, as part of our show, we had been playing the song Burn. We had recorded a cover of it on our 2000 album, Mechanics of Perilous Times. And when we played the song, I had no idea that some of the guys from Vengeance were there with it under a different band name. They were playing in some kind of grungy Creed-like band. Larry Farkas and Glenn Mancaruso, the drummer, those two were playing in that band. So we played our set, and after we got off the stage, the 2 Vengeance guys walked back behind the stage, and also Robert Sweet from Striper was there as well, and came backstage and was talking to us. And they said, "Man, you did a great job on that Vengeance song, Burn." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks. We've been playing that a long time. It's, we recorded it." He goes, "Yeah, we know. We actually got some royalties from that." I was like, "All right, I'm glad you got paid."
Yeah.
And so they're like, "Well, if we ever do a reunion, would you sing for us?" And I'm like, "Sure. If you ever do a reunion, give me a call." Well, 2 years later, they decided they wanted to do just the reunion show, which is going to be a one-off show, and it was going to be under the name Vengeance. And they gave me the call and said, "Hey, you want to sing for us?" I'm like, "Yeah, it'd be great." Okay, learn all the songs from the first 2 albums. We're playing it all.
How did that feel?
It was cool, because it was.
I mean, that kid that went in the record shop and got Vengeance, right? The Human Sacrifice, and you're all excited for when Once Dead came out, and you was there the day it came out.
Yep.
What would you do then if you could go? Yeah.
I'll tell you a
Guess
story
what?
about that. So I bought that record when I was, when I was, like I told you, I was in college, and I bought that tape in that store. I played it for my wife, who hates that kind of music, but anyhow, I played it for her anyway. She was my girlfriend at the time, and I'm like, if I'm ever in a band, I'm going to be in a band just like this.
Yeah.
And then go ahead of a few decades, and here I am actually playing for these guys. So let me show you this. So this is a promo photo of them from the Once Dead album. And I took this with me. So I had it signed by Roger, as you can, there's Roger's signature there, and his phone number. I had this signed on that last tour, the same one I showed you about, and it was the only signature I had on there. So I took this along to that very first practice I had with those guys. And after the practice was over, I'm like, "Hey, you guys mind signing this?" And they thought it was funny as crap that I wanted to, have them sign this thing. They're like, you're in the band, bro. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I was like,
yeah, I don't know that.
I may never see you guys ever again. You know.
Yeah.
I learned that story from I remember Eric Carr, the drummer from Kiss. You know,
Yeah.
for many years. Eric Carr, when he went to try out for Kiss, he brought one of his Kiss records with him. And at the tryouts, after he was done, he had Gene and Paul sign his record. And he's like, I figured, why not? I may not be in the band. I may never see him again.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing. So anyhow, I had this signed by him. Thing. I was a big old fan, big old geeky fan. Still am to this day. So, I even kept the set list from that. This is the original set list that was on. There was 6 of them. Most of them disappeared off the stage. There was one for the lighting guy and one for the guy running the sound, and this was the one that was in front of me. It even still has a tape on it where it was taped to the stage.
Yeah.
Had a big old footprint on it, but that's the original state one. And then there's this one here, which after the show, again, geeky me, I had everybody sign it.
So that's awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so that's the original set list that was on the stage. I believe this is the drummer one. And that's actually there's the backstage, there's the band pass from the show. So I ended up recording this DVD, the Once Dead, Return with a Vengeance. Now the show was originally billed and sold as Vengeance. And if you look on the set list, it actually has the Vengeance logo on it. Not Vengeance Rising, just Vengeance.
Because they were originally called Vengeance, weren't they? But didn't another band...
There's a band from the UK, I believe, that's called Vengeance. And
you always hear that story, didn't you? That we had to change our name to this because there was another band, but you never hear of that other band.
Yeah, yeah. Anyhow, so this came out. It came out okay. It was supposed to be a one-off gig. We practiced as a full band once. We practiced 2 or 3 times with a few band members. We had literally practiced that morning of the show. I woke up the morning of the show sick as a dog. Yeah, awful. And I was like, oh no. So I was like, I could just feel it coming on. So that morning we practiced. We went through the whole set with the whole band. Then we had interviews we did an interview with some magazines, and we did a video. We did interviews for this video in the back. And then Ultimatum opened up the show. So I had to sing 2 sets. I sang with Ultimatum.
Oh, really?
And then there was another band who played between us, which gave me time to go back and get cleaned up and showered and change my clothes. And then I had to sing with Vengeance. By the end of the show, lost my voice. I mean, I got through the whole show, but once I walked off that stage, I couldn't get another word out. So I was really sick. I'm surprised I got through it. Running a fever and the whole bit. I can hear it in my voice on this. Most people say, oh, you sound just like Roger. Okay, whatever. I was sick.
Yeah.
But anyhow, this thing is kind of hard to find. There are worth thousands of these things printed, but you told me they were hard to find. So, yeah, I don't know. I actually know, and once we get off, I actually know a guy who has a few copies of them. I'll give you his information.
Oh yeah, okay, that'd be cool. I mean, it'd be touch and go if he even works on a UK player, but if I could get hold of one, I will. Yeah.
It won't work in your DVD player, but it'll work in your computer.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because we actually took these and sold them when we played in Switzerland. When I played with them in Switzerland at Elements of Rock Festival, and we had to warn people this is a US DVD. So
you ended up in the band for 2 years. The band went on to record an album under the name Once Dead, but you weren't you weren't on that, no?
Correct. So one more thing about this thing that I thought that's kind of a funny story is, I learned all the songs. I knew them inside and out. We played this, we played our set. But if you look really closely at the set list right here, this is actually Doug.
I did see new song, yeah.
So they threw a new song on me that day, the day of the show. That morning, they were like, "We're gonna play this new song. You got any vocals?" Like, what do you mean? So they played the song for me, and I'm like, they're just like, sing something. I'm like, oh, geez, man. So I had been reading the Psalms at the time in my Bible. So I just started singing this. I just started growling out the Psalms during the show. It's funny. It's on the DVD, but it's in a bonus section. It's not part of the full show on there.
Yeah.
Go to the bonus section to find it. But yeah, it was kind of funny that they did that to me. But we did it. We played it live. Yeah, it was supposed to be a one-off show. It ended up being 2 years. They had so much fun at the show, and you know, they had a shoot. They sold it out. The crowd was packed.
Yeah, surely the demand was there as well.
Yeah, so we ended up playing, and it was just, I mean, we weren't like doing much. It was a handful of gigs here and there. I mean, I literally, I'm just the way I am with the thing. I literally keep everything. So, like, here's the flyer from the Elements of Rock show. Here's Up from the Ashes. Here's we played Cornerstone in 2005. That's the set list from Cornerstone. So, I mean, here's a photo of Larry and I on stage, and Larry signed it for me. So I'm just kind of, like I said, I'm a geek with that kind of stuff. I just keep all that junk.
Yeah, I'm the same when I go to gigs. I always have the CD books in my inside pocket with a pen.
Here's another Cornerstone one, and you can see it's signed by, at this point, Jim Chafin was from the Crucified, had taken over playing drums for us. It was his first show with us. He didn't even get to practice with us for it. So yeah, that was a rough. Yeah, actually, if you look at this, let me move this thing over. It's kind of funny because if you look at it, you can see this is his drumming. It's got all these little notes he wrote on there about how the song starts, so he knew when to come in and where to come in. And it was, like I said, literally his first show with us.
Yeah.
And he didn't get to practice with the band. So yeah, I was in the band for 2 years, and I was running the band's website. I was working on music with them. I was writing lyrics. I wrote a few songs for them, and we started pre-selling the album, and it sold really, really well. But then one of the guys in the band decided that he didn't want the new albums. He started fighting with the rest of the guys in the band, and he started demanding things, and it's just started falling apart from there. But one of the things he demanded is he wanted me to sing in a different style. So they had me come out to California and start singing on some demos. And they were like, sing it like Bon Scott would sing it. Sing it like this person would sing. Sing it like Dave Mustaine would sing it. And it was just really weird. And my bass player from Ultimatum flew with me, and he was there. And he actually was screwing around on bass for them at the time because the bass player wasn't there. And it was just odd because they were having me sing in all these different ways. And they were like, all right, now sing the way you want to sing it. And I sang it, and it sounded great. I looked over at Rob, bass player Rob, and I'm like, what do you think? He was, sounded good, man. So I was like, right on. And that was it. That was, we recorded the demo. I recorded vocals for one song, and I went back to New Mexico, and I didn't hear, anything bad or positive or anything else about it. Well, then we had one more show to go, which I still have that set list too, somewhere in here. And I could tell something was wrong. Here it is. You could tell even the set list is different, as opposed to being a nice typed out set list with a logo on top of it. It's scribbled on the back of a piece of paper from the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, so you can see they're shooting from the hip at this point. Yeah.
Right. So something's, and then when I got on stage with them, something was really wrong. Usually Larry and I would play off each other on stage, and him and I would he'd be playing guitar, and I'd get over underneath him, and we just kind of we got into it. And this time he was very standoffish, and he was like, he just ignored me on stage. I'm like, something's wrong. But I didn't say anything. It was just, maybe he's having a bad day. Who knows? And about a week later, I got the call, and they were like, dude, you're out. So I got what I call the left foot of fellowship out of the band.
Yeah.
And I was like, they lied to me, and they told me the reason was because I was too far away and it was too expensive to have me coming out. And I found out later what the real reason was. The real reason was because Ultimatum was very popular at the time. We had put out Into the Pit, and that album was selling really, really well for us. And a lot of the people who were pre-buying the Once Dead album were buying it through the Ultimatum website. And Larry was a bit upset because he didn't want people comparing Once Dead to Ultimatum. And with me singing for him, he was sure that they would be compared. So that was why I got kicked out of the band. They wanted a different style of vocalist. So they made an announcement in the middle of everything that they were replacing me with a different vocalist. And unfortunately, their pre-sales people started demanding their money back. They lost a lot of money because of it, and I felt really bad because it was like it's still them. So
yeah,
I was just like a fill-in vocalist basically. But they ended up getting a metalcore style singer who was a super nice guy. I really like him, but he's just not a thrash singer. He was a metalcore screamer.
Yeah.
And they recorded that album with him. All my songs were deleted. They didn't use any of my lyrics at all, which is fine. I ended up using those lyrics in the next Ultimatum record, but they did use one of my song titles. It was called Body Parts, which is basically about the body of Christ, and how if you take and rip your right arm off and throw it over there, it's still part of the body of Christ, but it's useless and it's rotting sitting over there unless you're actually part of that body, right?
Yeah.
So that's how the song Body Parts came about. Sorry about that noise.
That's all right. My phone was doing the same thing earlier. I was putting it to do not disturb.
That wasn't my phone. It's my my air conditioner just kicked on. It's hot. Anyhow, so that was the only thing that they ended up using, and I was fine with that. But they didn't use my lyrics though. So when Ultimatum recorded the song using my lyrics, I changed the name of the song from Body Parts to Scattered, and then in quotations Body Parts. Okay. So that's the only connection there is between what I did with them and that album. But one thing about that album too is one of those songs. Remember, I told you they played 4 songs at that show that in Albuquerque. That song that they played that they never got recorded finally did get recorded on that album, on that Once Dead album. So
that's cool.
But and I stayed friends with all those guys after they kicked me out. I mean, there was hardly any of the original guys left anyhow. Larry Farkas had left the band. Glenn Mancuso had left the band. Bass player Roger Martin had left the band. So there was like only Doug really left from the original Vengeance Rising at that point. And Glenn Rogers had returned. I told you, wrote for the first album. So when they did that and they told me I was out, I called each of them guys individually. And I said, hey, just calling to say thanks. I enjoyed it. We had a great time. Went to Europe with them. We played Switzerland, and we played all over the country. And I'm like, so I just called them up to say thank you. And all of them were shocked. They were like, "You're not mad?" I'm like, "No, why would you be mad?" Well, we kicked you out, so.
You're still grateful for what you did, and you're still part of the band. You're still part of the history. You got to sing in one of your favorite bands. Playing those songs. Yeah,
that's how I saw it. So that's how it went down. And like I said, I'm still friends with all those guys today. I've seen them. I've seen them live several times. I've done some guest vocals live with them a few times. Where we played Ultimatum played Cornerstone a few times, and they were playing too. And they came over, hey, come up and sing Burn with us. And I went up and sang Burn with them, and shared vocals with their other vocalists. So yeah, it was, like I said, I'm still friends with all those guys. I still love them. Still a big fan. So and they're still together. They just put out a new EP last year, or was it 2020? It might have been 2020. But the EP is only available digitally.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about Ultimatum as well, because are Ultimatum still active? You still gigging or?
No, Ultimatum was together for 20 years, 92 through 2012, and after 2012, we didn't never really broke up. We just stopped playing. We were all just tired, and things were beginning to happen in people's personal lives that was taking up so much time in the band, and so we just say we went on hiatus. So there's always a chance, of us getting back together again, as long as Robert Gutierrez and Rob Whitlock are in, bass player. As long as the 3 of us are in the band, we can get another drummer, we can get another second guitar player, but we'll see. It's possible.
Never. Yeah.
So you've got 20 years. We put out 6 albums, a few EPs, and we recorded a live DVD. We put out a bunch of demos. So yeah, it was.
Yeah, I've seen your stuff on the websites, and they're on my list of future purchases. So like I say, I'm building up the collection. So I'm still new to the.
Well, if anybody's interested in looking up Ultimatum, I recommend either looking up the album Lex Metalis, which was our last album. Heart and Metal, which was our last album, or Into the Pit. Those were my 2 favorites that we did. Our most popular album, the one that sold the best, was our second album, Puppet of Destruction. But that's only because we were on a big label at the time and it got distributed everywhere.
So Puppet of Destruction, Into the Pit, and Metal Heart.
Heart of Metal, yep.
Heart of Metal, sorry. And that's the good. that's a good starting basis, and then
Yep,
let that go from there.
So Heart of Metal is the CD version of it anyhow, is basically, it's got 4 new songs, 5 remix songs, and it's got, I think, 14 tracks that go all the way back to the first album, all the way up to the new tracks in chronological order.
Right.
So that's why it's a good, but the 4 new songs on there, they're just some of my favorite songs we wrote. Into the Pit was hugely our most popular album, except for Puppet of Destruction, just because it sold more. But again, we were on a bigger label. And our 3rd album, Mechanics of Perilous Times, we were actually on a German label, Massacre Records.
Yeah.
So we were on Massacre Records. We were on their thrash sub label called Gutter Records that they were doing for a while with bands like Blood Red Angel and I can't even remember all the bands that were on there at the time. But anyhow, yeah. So we're 20 years. It was a long run, and who knows, we may do something more.
Okay. All right. I think we've covered everything. So yeah, hopefully this is giving you a bit of insight, and I'm pretty sure you would have. But if you check out Scott's channel, if you haven't seen it before, it's just Scott Waters, isn't it? No, it's Nolifetillmetal is the YouTube channel.
Yeah, you can find it under Scott Waters or Nolifetillmetal.
Yeah, and yeah, check out these 4 amazing albums, Avengers Rising, and yeah, a great legacy they've left on the Christian metal scene. And yeah, I'll be making a follow-up video soon, just showing off what I've been listening to. I'm still waiting for a package from Sound Mass, I think it is. I've pre-ordered. It might be I can't remember if Boone's Overstock or Sound Mass, but I ordered. There was a bit of a delay in the Sleeping Giants CDs.
Oh yeah,
they're
out. So
yeah, I'm
yeah.
They said
Sound Mass carries most of this. Sound Mass in the UK carries a lot of that stuff. You know, Vengeance, Mortification, anything that comes out on Roxx, Retroactive. Trying to think of the other ones. Girder Music. They carry most of that stuff, so you can get it. That's where you can get it in the UK without having to pay enormous shipping fees.
Yeah, so soundmass.com, Boone's Overstock, Nolifetillmetal. Is there anything else to you want to push or pub?
Check out roxxrecords.com too.
Roxxrecords.com.
Yeah. So that's it. I appreciate you having me on. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thanks for coming on, Scott. It was a pleasure finally to meet you finally. And yeah, take care, and we'll sort something out, and we'll do something again soon.
Right on.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Give us one of them and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.